Welcome back, everyone. Thank you to all our honored participants who are still with us. Now, it is my honor to introduce our third keynote speaker, namely the Honorable Yanagimoto Takuji, former member of the House of Councilors of Japan. The Honorable Yanagimoto Takuji was born on November 11th, 1944, and is a Japanese politician of the Liberal Democratic Party. A native of Osaka, he attended Waseda University as a graduate student. He was elected to the first of his 3 terms in the City Assembly of Osaka in 1975. Later, he was elected in 1990 as a member of the LDP to the Japanese Diet, representing the city of Osaka. The Honorable Yanagimoto Takuji will address us on the theme, Political Evaluation on Godism, toward the peaceful unification of the Korean Peninsula. Let's welcome the Honorable Congressman.
ご紹介に預かりました前参議院議員の柳本拓司でございます。韓半島の平和的統一は韓半島に住む南北を合わせた7600万人の方々の切実な願いであると同時に、その隣に位置する日本、さらにアジア地域にとって極めて重要な課題です。なぜなら韓半島は歴史的にも地政学的にもアジア情勢を大きく左右する立場にあるからです。特に北朝鮮にはレアアースをはじめとして豊富な鉱山資源、そして優秀な人的資源があります。これらが平和的統一によって有効的に活用されるようになれば、アジアの開発・発展に大きく寄与することでしょう。ところが、ご存知のように、北朝鮮では共産主義政権ができたことで、平和統一が極めて難しい状況になりました。神様を否定する共産主義思想は人類にとって大きな脅威であり、民主主義世界はいまだその脅威を克服できていません。旧ソ連は崩壊しましたが、代わって今日中国が世界の脅威となり、アメリカですらそれを抑え込むことができない状況であります。北朝鮮は経済制裁や自然災害に直面しているものの、いまだ政権が倒れる気配はありません。それだけ共産国家を克服するのは難しいということです。これまで共産国家を本当の意味で克服できたのは UPF の創始者文鮮明先生ご夫妻だけでございました。ご夫妻は1982年アメリカにワシントン・タイムズを立ち上げ、リーガン政権に適切な対ソ政策を示し、SDI 構想を支援しました。また、1990年に自ら旧ソ連を訪れ、ゴルバチョフ大統領との会談で民主化を支援を約束をいたしました。ご夫妻の歩みがなければ、 旧ソ連が崩壊することなどありえないことであったでしょう。北朝鮮については国際社会が核ミサイル開発をやめさせようと何度も試みましたが、トランプ前大統領による会談を含め事態が本当の意味で進展したことは一度もありませんでした。この点についても本当の意味で事態が進展したのはやはり文鮮明先生ご夫妻が1991年に北朝鮮を訪れ核放棄の合意を果たした時だけでございました。私は文先生ご夫妻の取り組みが功を奏したのは神主義の思想に基づいているからだと考えております。私は政治家であります。政治においては各国の主義思想に介入することはできません。介入すれば内政干渉となり国際社会のルールに反するからであります。また特定の思想信条を評価すれば政教分離の原則に反する恐れがあります。しかし共産主義問題についてはこれを放置したままで平和的統一をすることは絶対にできません。その意味で私は韓半島の平和的統一には文鮮明先生ご夫妻が提唱される神主義に基づく政策が極めて重要だと考えています。第一に、神主義は無神論である共産主義思想を克服することができる思想だからであります。第二は、神主義は人類の父母である神様を中心とする思想であり、特定の思想信条に基づいた思想ではないからであります。第三は、文鮮明ご夫妻が自ら示されたように、その本質は敵までも愛するという誠の愛だからです。国際高速道路構想と日韓トンネルプロジェクト、また家庭の価値観の大切さまでを含めて、本日は韓半島の平和的統一に向けて神主義を踏まえながら大いに議論がなされると聞いております。政治家として日韓両国、そしてアジアに誠の平和が訪れるために、今回の議論が進展するよう心から祈っております。誠にありがとうございました。
Thank you once again, Honorable Yanagimoto Takuji, for your serious, heartfelt, and persuasive remarks. Thank you very much, sir. Our next speaker is Dr. Hirofumi Sato. Dr. Sato is a lifelong committed activist for friendship and cooperation between Japan and Korea, a prolific writer of prize-winning essays and numerous articles to newspapers and journals in support of topics as diverse as chastity education, the International Highway Tunnel Project, principled politics, and North-South Korean unification. Since his active involvement in the International One World Crusade in 1975, all the way up to the prominent pinnacle of being chief director of the International Highway Foundation and his participation in Universal Peace Federation, he has been a lifetime devotee of peace, reconciliation, and moral activism. His talk for us is entitled Peaceful Unity of the Korean Peninsula and the International Highway, the Japan-Korea Tunnel from the viewpoint of creating a new civilization. Please join me in welcoming our next speaker, Dr. Hirofumi Sato.
Good afternoon. My name is Hirofumi Sato. I am in charge of International Highway Foundation, Chief Director. Today's theme is North-South Peaceful Unification of the Korean Peninsula with the International Highway and Japan-Korea Tunnel from the perspective of the creation of a new civilization. Chapter 1, North-South Peaceful Unification Plan on the Korean Peninsula. Section 1, what approach should be taken? There are currently two regions in the world that are likely to trigger global war and confliction. These are the Middle East and the Korean Peninsula. In both cases, religion, ideology, history, political system, international politics, economy, and military, etc., are intertwined in a complicated manner, and it's extremely difficult to solve these problems. The angle of point of view may just be the decisive factor. Therefore, in order to solve such a complicated problem, it might be wiser to avoid the phenomenological point of view and tackle it by using both a macroscopic point of view and a fundamental point of view. I'd like to introduce the following 3 points. The first point is understanding the essence of the problem from the perspective of world history and history of civilization. Examining history means the approach from the past. The second point is having a clear vision and building an idealistic future image. The approach is from the future. If we do not clearly the direction of where we are headed and do not have the ideal image of what we should achieve, we will reach a deadlock. The third point is a primordial approach from the dimension of thought, philosophy, and religion. Problem can be solved according to the philosophy of peace religion, realization, based on religion, philosophy, and thought. This is because analysis found from political, economical, and international situations are partial, superficial, and temporary. As such, they can't lead to the fundamental, comprehensive, permanent solution. Section 2, premise of the North-South Unification Plan and countermeasures, that is proper recognition of the conflict of two Koreas. The basis of the reunification of the two Koreas should be to overcome the communism of the North in theory, strategy, organization, and belief, to open the North and build a new unified nation on the Korean Peninsula. To this end, political and economic measures should be established on the premise of ideology and religious perspectives. The following preconditions must be met. 1. Understanding and preparation for the international characteristic of the unified Korea. Firstly, the geographical position of Korean Peninsula should be considered. How to coordinate that four neighboring powers of the United States, Japan, China, and Russia, and to balance their concern is a critical issue. Second, proper understanding of the eighth parallel and confrontational nature and unification plan. Secondly, the nature of the third eighth parallel line must be understood correctly. It is not just a simple military demarcation line, but also carries the following characteristics. One, the line of confrontation regime. The third eighth parallel on the Korean Peninsula is the geographical scale of confrontation between the communism and capitalism regime. Therefore, an alternative is needed as the unification plan to abolish the confrontational line. This is interdependence, mutual prosperity, and universal value. It is not communism or capitalism. It is not left-wing or right-wing. It is the third alternative thought. A confrontation line of region and anti-region. North Korea is an atheistic country and does not tolerate faith or religion. On the other hand, South Korea guarantees freedom of religion. Third, a confrontation line of thought. The 38th parallel is also a line of confrontation between spiritualism and materialism. The ideology of North Korea is communist materialism and justice struggle and revolution. Therefore, there should be a unified thought between materialism and spiritualism. Four, the confrontation line of value system. It is necessary to establish absolute value as an ideological and religious alternative that can neutralize communist values. Section 3. The International Highway and the Japan-Korea Tunnel. At the 10th ICAS meeting in 1981, Reverend Samuel Moon, the founder of and the president of the Holy Spirit Association for the Unification of World Christianity, advocated an immense historical project to realize world peace, new civilization, and ultimate the idea of one global family by the elimination of national borders and equalization of economy and technology, and by connecting the world with the high standard highway network. The Japan-Korea tunnel is a part of an international highway and is a major project that connects Japan and South Korea through an undersea tunnel. This is a way to open up Japan's future by connecting the island of Japan to the continent. It is also the alternative to the globalization of China's proposed One Belt, One Road. Chapter 2. Synergy effect of the international highway. In order to understand the value and effect of the international highway, it is necessary to understand the ripple effect created by the high standard transportation system and infrastructure that has the potential to develop into the creation of the new civilization. Historical perspective. The Roman roads are the infrastructure for peace. In order to realize the historical challenge of world peace, we first must humbly learn from history. If you look at the world history, you can see that Pax Romana, an area of unprecedented peace and prosperity, existed in that vast region around the Mediterranean for approximately 200 years, about 2,000 years ago. The Via Romana, the famous Roman roads system, is said to have played a decisive role in the peaceful building and prosperity throughout the region. The Roman roads correspond to what we now call expressway, and the Roman Empire achieved peace and prosperity by extending throughout the empire. The Via Roman as a high standard road network. This is the historical example how peace can be realistically realized by infrastructure for peace. The establishment of the Roman roads network was initially meant to establish an advanced security system. it contributes to drastic increase of transportation. The Mediterranean area became a highly organized, wide economic zone. Because of this economic problem, which were the main cause of war, were resolved and the Roman roads became the infrastructure of peace, creating the remarkable historical period of prosperity, the Pax Romana. History has proven that by building a high standard international road network covering vast area can trigger the ripple effect, rapid economic and cultural development, war became meaningless and peaceful world emerged. Chapter 3, Historical and Realistic Value and Effect of the International Highway. In the process of realizing the International Highway project, the most problem in the world, such as economic, politics, and culture, etc., will be solved, and world peace and the ideal world will be realized in a tangible form. The following 10 items are listed. 1. Resolution of global economic turmoil, recession, and resource problem. The international highway is equivalent to the artery of the vascular tissue in terms of the human anatomy. The blood does not circulate sufficiently through the whole human body due to the arterial line not being formed properly. Improving global distribution may solve most economic problems. Eliminating war and cultivating the culture of peace. In chapter 2, verse 4 of the book of the Isaiah, in the Old Testament Bible, it's quote, "They will beat their sword into plowshares and their spear into pruning hook. Nation will not take up sword against nation, nor will they train for war anywhere. If the world can reduce its entire military expenditure and allocate even a part of this enormous expenditure to poverty eradication, food development, and construct peace, such as the development of the international highway, possibility of world peace is mere reality." 3. The creation of new civilization, culture and civilization blossom on the basis of the development economy in the peaceful environment. If an international network of high standard laws is created, a new civilization will emerge as a result of rapid economic and cultural improvement by free border. The international highway will become a symbol of this new civilization infrastructure. 4. Providing young people with dream, hope, and work. 5. Common goal for mankind in the post-Cold War era. Although communism collapsed as the system by the fall of the Soviet Union, it does not mean that capitalism won. Both democracy and communism have failed to raise the morality of humanity. In order to overcome this issue, a symbol that can transcend the idea of both democracy and communism is necessary to uphold a common goal, a dream for humanity. The International Highway Project can become the common goal and ideal and symbol of mankind in the post-Cold War era. Main infrastructure 6 for the formation of the Northeast Asia community. The global economy today faces challenges by the limitation of both United States and the European Union to serve as the ground factor. Meanwhile, it would just be problematic if the communist China becomes the center of the world economy. It is then the highly likely scenario of the Northeast Asia region is to become the driving force for the future. 7. Resolution of historical issues between the two countries. There is a major historical problem between Japan and South Korea. Numerous attempts have been made, but it remained unresolved. The only effective way to overcome this problem is set a common goal for both countries to resolve historical issues while deepening mutual understanding and trust by moving forward to the goal. 8. Chance for the peaceful unification of the Korean Peninsula. The division of the Korean Peninsula is a microcosmos of the world where the front line of democracy and communist Korea is. If the conflict can resolve peacefully, the reunification of the two Korea will serve as the model for the world peace, together with the simultaneous construction of the Japan-Korea Tunnel and the international highway connecting Korea and China will gradually outline the Northeast Asia community. 8. Nothing is more epoch-making and effective than the international highway project to solving serious problem comprehensively and laying foundation for world peace. It can also pave the way for religious, ideological, cultural, political, and economic unification. The International Highway Project, which contains such comprehensive content, is well qualified to be the symbol of the world peace. 10. Realization of the one global family, a dream of mankind. Realization of the one global family is a dream and desired by many. However, the dream of this cannot be realized unless the international highway is stretched around the world and the earth becomes similar to the structure of the human body. Chapter 4, Japan-Korea Tunnel, a symbol of future-oriented Japan-Korea relation. The undersea tunnel between Japan and South Korea is a window to that of openness and tolerance, and can become a cornerstone for the common development and mutual prosperity of both nations and peace in Northeast Asia and the world. It can be described as today chosen to Sinsi, Korean diplomats that connect Japan and Korea for centuries of good relations during the days of samurai. Chapter 5, creation of new civilization based on interdependence, mutual prosperity, and universal value with the international highway and Japan-Korea tunnel. This paper describes that the international highway project is a realistic and core project to realize an interdependence, mutual prosperity, and universal value world from the following points. 1. New civilization philosophy, interdependence, mutual prosperity, and universal value. The fundamental problem that modern society is facing today is that although communism and capitalism may have updated social system, it can't improve the morality of human beings, resulting in a deadlock without being able to present third way as an alternative. Both are not limited to economic system, but also includes political, theological, and religious ideas as a full civilizational system. Therefore, a new philosophy that can surpass those two should be new civilization philosophy that are composed of economic, politics, thought, and religion at the high level, that is the interdependence, mutual prosperity, and the universal value. Interdependence is the economic idea, mutual prosperity is a political idea, and the universal value is the religious idea. Therefore, interdependence, mutual prosperity, and the universal value together is a new civilization philosophy for the construction of ideal world that combine all aspects And the fundamental difference between this new philosophy with the communism and capitalism is that it's rooted to solve the problem fundamentally by practicing God love beyond the selfishness of human being by true love in action. Second, the International Highway Project and civilization creation. I recognize that IH International Highway Project includes the effect of enabling economic unification, political unification, religious unification, ideological and cultural unification, and that there is a possibility of the creation of the civilization as a result of the integration of these. In general, when an international network of high standard, high-speed translation routes is constructed, the synergy effect will lead to the development of the economy in the world area and on average. Other results, the demand for the peaceful international order, free of war and conflict arise from the need for the free passage, leading to the movement for the abolition of national borders. Eventually, the world became the economic community, and the peaceful environment in which war could not occur was realized. On this basis, civilization was a fusion of economics, politics through thought and religion will emerge. Conclusion. Proposed North-South peaceful unification plan for the Korean Peninsula based on the principle of interdependence and mutual prosperity and universal value. An ideological solution centered on the principle of the interdependence, mutual prosperity, and universal value are the third principle that surpass and embrace the communism and capitalism must be based on the political measures taken together with. Second, the reunification of two Koreas should be promoted according to the national vision of reunified Korea, which aims to build a country that will serve as a model for world peace based on the new civilization principle. Third, it is equally important to make economic development in South Korea and North Korea. Infrastructure development is central to North Korea. The tunnel project on the international highway between Japan and Korea is an infrastructure for the creation of the peaceful civilization with an emphasis on economic development and is an effective way to meet these requirements. Four, in terms of international cooperation, the Japan-Korea-USA relationship is partially important. The international highway projects are designed to ensure that South Korea does not become unilaterally subordinate to China. There is a little prospect of the elimination of the 38th parallel for the liberation of North Korea. However, various issues related to the peaceful reunification of the two Korea will be solved by promoting the construction of an international highway and the Japan-Korea tunnel, opening the way for the reunification. The full-scale construction of the international highway and tunnel, Japan-Korea tunnel, will serve as the trigger, promotion measures, guidelines, and the breakthrough. Six, therefore, now is the time for Japan and Korea to strengthen the international cooperation, especially the entry of the United States, and actively promote the international highway and Japan-Korea tunnel project in the public and private sector as one of the most important national politics to pave the way for the peaceful unification of the Korean Peninsula. And the international highway and Japan-Korea tunnel project should be booted up to the political party pledge for the presidential election next year. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sato, for your insightful presentation. Now, Our next speaker is Dr. Yoshizumi Asai. Dr. Yoshizumi Asai early on decided his life course and committed himself to mastering the Korean language, not only the language of South Korea, who is unquestionably an ally of Japan, but even the North Korean dialect, which is normally something the Japanese citizen would avoid. Dr. Asai displays a consistent and tenacious purpose for reconciliation between formerly alienated brothers and sisters in the world family. Dr. Asai received his doctoral degree in history from Yonsei University in Seoul and is highly regarded as an expert on the modern history of the Korean Peninsula, regularly delivering lectures at 3 different universities in Japan. He will be speaking in Korean today, so English translation is provided. His topic, Inter-Korean Peaceful Unification and the Cross-Approval Initiative. Please welcome Dr. Yoshizumi Asai.
안녕하십니까. 아사이라고 합니다. 오늘 저는 역사학을 전공하는 입장에서 남북 통일을 위한 국제제재에 대해서 보고하고자 합니다. 먼저 남북 분단의 원인을 아는 것이 중요합니다. 이것은 어떻게 하면 통일을 이룰 수 있는지를 알기 위해서입니다. 그런데 분단의 원인은 여러 면에서 찾을 수 있지만 국제적인 원인으로서는 얄타 회담을 들 수 있습니다. 당시 전쟁 후의 한반도를 어떻게 할 것인가 하는 문제에 있어서 미국에 의한 단독 관리와 연합군에 의한 국제 관리라는 두 선택이 있었는데 루즈벨트 정권은 소련, 중국, 미국에 의한 국제 관리를 선택했습니다. 게다가 루즈벨트 대통령은 스탈린에게 대일 참전을 요청한 결과 소련군이 한반도에 진출할 수 있게 되어 분단이 시작된 것입니다. 이러한 배경에서 분단이 이루어졌기 때문에 한반도에서는 복잡한 분단 구조가 형성되었습니다. 한반도는 남북만이 분단되어 있는 게 아니라 미국, 소련, 중국, 일본 등 4나라가 분단의 이해관계를 가지고 대치하는 구조가 형성된 것입니다. 물론 통일은 남북이 주도해야 하지만 4나라를 무시해서 통일은 이룰 수가 없는 것입니다. 따라서 통일의 조건은 4나라가 통일에 협조할 수 있는 국제 환경, 국제 제재가 마련돼야 한다는 것입니다. 그리고 또 하나는 이러한 지정학적인 구조화에서는 한국 정부가 4나라한테 어떤 외교를 가지고 통일을 주지하느냐가 중요하게 됩니다. 그런데 이 지정학적인 구조와 그 변화를 역사적으로 본다면 이것은 북한에게 큰 영향을 줘왔던 것을 알 수 있습니다. 첫째는 중소 대립의 영향입니다. 60년대의 중소 대립은 공산주의의 노선 대립을 일으키고 북한도 독자적인 공산주의 체제와 사상을 모색하게 되었습니다. 둘째는 72년의 미중 화해 영향입니다. 중국이 미국과 화해한 결과 북한은 외교적으로 고립되었습니다. 이러한 상황하에서 북한은 체제를 유지하기 위해서 한국과는 대화 노선을 취하고 헌법을 개정하는 등 주체 사상을 바탕으로 한 국가 체제를 확립해 나가게 되었습니다. 셋째는 한국과 소련의 수교 영향입니다. 소련이 한국과 수교한 결과 북한은 외교적으로도 경제적으로도 완전히 고립화되었습니다. 북한은 이 상황을 타개하기 위해서 한국과의 혼전체제를 받아들이고 미국과 일본과의 관계 개선을 모색하게 되었습니다. 이것은 소련이 한국과 수교한 직후부터 조일교섭이나 조미회담이 행해진 것이 이것을 가리키고 있습니다. 그러나 북한은 나치 문제로 일본과는 수교를 못했고 미국과도 비핵화 노선이나 핵사찰 협정에 조인을 했지만 회담을 한 번밖에 가질 수 없었습니다. 미국이 상대로 하지 않았기 때문입니다. 그래서 북한은 핵 개발을 본격화시키고 핵 문제를 통해서 미국과의 교섭을 모색하기 시작했습니다. 미국은 핵 개발에 대해서는 무시 못하기 때문입니다. 북한의 이 노선은 그 후 30년 동안 변화가 없었습니다. 그런데 한국이 소련과 중국과 수교를 맺고 북한이 미국과 일본과 수교를 맺어지면 이것은 바로 네 나라가 남북 통일에 협조할 수 있는 국제 제재가 마련된 것을 의미합니다. 이 크로스윙 구상은 전두환 정권에서 입안되고 노태우 정권에서 북한 정책으로 전개되었지만 북한과 미국, 일본과의 수교는 아직도 실현되어 있지 않습니다. 따라서 남북 통일을 이루기 위해서는 이 크로스윙 체제를 어떻게 완성할 것인가, 이것이 가장 중요한 과제가 될 것입니다. 또 하나 중요한 것은 크로스윙 체제를 이루는 데 있어서 한국이 어떠한 외교를 가지고 이것을 추진해 나갈 것인가 하는 문제입니다. 문재인 정권은 밸런스 국가 외교를 전개해 왔습니다. 그 이유는 한미일 연계 강화가 냉전 구조와 남북 대립을 유지해 왔다는 생각이었기 때문입니다. 그러나 북한은 소련이 한국과 수교한 후 일관해서 미국과 일본과의 관계 개선을 추구해 왔습니다. 이러한 북한의 움직임을 보면 한국은 북한이 필요로 하는 미국과 일본과의 연계 강화를 하면 할수록 한반도에 있어서 통일의 주도권을 잡을 수 있게 된다는 것입니다. 따라서 자기 대통령 선거에서는 한미일 연계 강화를 선택할 정권이 탄생할 것이 중요하다고 생각합니다. 마지막으로는 남북 통일에 있어서의 중국 문제입니다. 남북 통일은 자유롭고 세계의 열린 환경 하에서 이루어야 합니다. 그런데 2000년대에 들어와서 중국 경제가 성장함으로써 북한 경제뿐만 아니라 한국 경제까지 중국에 의존하게 되었습니다. 이런 상황 하에서 통일을 추진하면 중국을 중심으로 한 나라에 의한 통일이 이루어질 가능성이 적지 않습니다. 이러한 상황을 피하기 위해서는 38선의 UN 기구를 유치하는 것이 하나의 방법이 아닐까 합니다. 이 구상은 박근혜 대통령이 세계평화공구상으로서 미국에서 제안했지만 실현되지 못했습니다. 자기 조건에서는 이 구상을 제고할 필요가 있다고 생각합니다. 이상입니다. 감사합니다.
Hey. Thank you very much, Dr. Asai. Now, we are going to invite our last speaker for this forum up to the podium. Our final speaker for today's forum is Dr. Tyler Hendricks. Dr. Hendricks was a member of the second graduating class of the Unification Theological Seminary and went on to earn his doctorate in religion from Vanderbilt University. He served as director of the Interdenominational Conferences for Clergy, assistant director of the First Assembly of the World's Religions, president of the Family Federation in America, and president of the Unification Theological Seminary, his alma mater, and also mine, and many others. He is currently adjunct professor at Sun Moon University and at Sunhak Graduate University here in Korea, and working on many research projects as well. He's the author of Family, Church, Community, Kingdom. His presentation is entitled The True Family Values Strategy for Korean Unification and World Unification. Let's welcome Dr. Tyler Hendricks to the podium. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, everyone. It's nice to be able to speak with you. And True Family Values, strategy for Korean unification. True Family Values can serve as the foundation for a nation's law, policy, and culture. Okay. Two nations with the same foundation of law, policy, and culture will naturally harmonize. What are the most important laws of a nation? Science tells us that the most important laws are those that protect and uphold love. This comes from science. Love is the law of nature, natural law, scientifically grounded. Nature puts whole purpose above self-purpose. That is the principle of the ecosystem. So natural law tells us to put whole purpose above self-purpose, put others first. For us, the mind connects to the whole purpose, the body to the self-purpose. We conclude the vertical law of nature is the body follows the mind. That is, mind over body. That's the vertical law of nature. Now, the horizontal law of nature, that's male-female. In nature, male and female mature, unite, multiply, nurture, and repeat. Number one, nature puts mature first before unite and multiply. Number two, nature has parents nurture until the offspring reach maturity. That means the offspring can survive to multiply on their own. For human beings, maturity first, number one, maturity first means sexual abstinence until marriage. Nurture offspring means sustain the two-parent household, which means faithful marriage. Science proves that those who follow these laws multiply and thrive. And those who violate these laws suffer and disappear. So, the horizontal law of nature is sexual abstinence until marriage and absolute fidelity in marriage. The vertical law, mind-body, addresses us as individuals. An individual creates what? A life. The horizontal law addresses us as sexual beings, couples. Couples create what? Families. Live for others is the ethical principle. Maturity and fidelity is the social principle. Society starts with men and women creating families. That's true for North Korea. It's true for South Korea. Okay. Aristotle said, the family contains the original sources of constitutional government. Confucius said, peace in the family leads to peace in the nation. Sexual abstinence before marriage and fidelity in marriage are the most important laws of a nation. The healthy nation starts with natural law, purity and fidelity. Sexual abstinence until marriage, eternal commitment in marriage. Does social science back this up? It sure does. Here is what happens when we fail to uphold these laws. Poorer health. I'm going to mention a lot of major university studies from around the world. This is the result of sexual immorality and family breakdown. Poorer health, major depression, alcohol dependence, drug abuse, depression, anxiety or withdrawal, suicidal thoughts. Children in single-parent care have the most problems. Higher suicide rate, more heart attacks, adolescent PTSD, fighting, bullying, vandalism, teen depression, anxiety, aggression, poorer health, low birth weight, preterm birth, infant mortality, adolescent depression, substance use, delinquency. It goes on and on. Domestic violence, childhood obesity, dissatisfaction with life, poor health. Family breakdown is like a knife with two blades. Taxpayers cover the social costs of family breakdown. The recipients of those services rarely, if ever, repay the cost. So a moral crisis becomes an economic catastrophe. Higher social costs and smaller tax base. J.D. Unwin studied the relationship between sexual morality and cultural development. He was a young British anthropologist who sought to support Freud's criticism of sexual repression. To his surprise, he found that cultural anthropology disproves Freud. For society, sexual repression, quote unquote, is totally beneficial. In the book, Sex and Culture, Unwin presented his analysis of 86 cultures. He found that cultures that allow divorce decline slowly, and they gradually allow free sex, and then they decline rapidly. On the other hand, cultures that practice absolute monogamy and forbid divorce expand and prosper. Unwin's conclusion: any human society is free to choose either to display great energy or to enjoy sexual freedom. The evidence is that it cannot do both for more than one generation. Why? Because such a culture is violating the laws of nature. How are the governments of the two Koreas doing in this area? In a word, neither are doing very well. North Korea, corruption at the top. The Kipumjo, pleasure squad, began during the reign of Kim Il-sung. Kim Jong-il's, and we'll just jump across generations, Kim Jong-il's unrestricted sexual behavior was highly contagious. Since that era, adultery, premarital sex, and cohabitation have become more prevalent among ordinary young people in North Korea. Hand-picked harem inside Kim Jong-un's vile pleasure squad, where virgin schoolgirls are selected to entertain North Korean rulers. This is from an article from England, an English publication, 2020. A United Nations report in 2014 found domestic violence against women in the home is rife within DPRK society. And it is common to see women being beaten and sexually assaulted in public. In a survey of 750 North Korean women defectors, almost 50% said that rape and sexual harassment against women in North Korea is common. The divorce rate is rapidly rising. Families are falling apart. Women are left to fend for themselves. The famine of the 1990s brought in its wake a thriving trade in sex trafficking and prostitution. As a result, in terms of sexual morality, even the all-powerful North Korean Workers' Party is largely hands-off. South Korea, one of the countries hit earliest and hardest by digital sex crimes, an extreme form of abuse with long-term consequences for survivors. South Korean government recently announced an interagency plan to eradicate digital sex crimes, but most victims have so little faith in the justice system that they don't bother to report crimes. South Korea has the world's lowest fertility rate. Its marriage rate is falling rapidly. Its divorce rate is rising. At the same time, it is liberalizing its laws respecting abortion and divorce. The number of victims of sexual violence in South Korea is increasing. Further, the number of unmarried mothers is increasing to a serious level of concern. South Korean women account for more than half of all homicide victims, making it one of the highest rates of female murder in the world. What Reverend Moon saw in Manhattan 50 years ago has come to South Korea. His words, "Most of them live alone. They intentionally have no family," talking about the young people. They ask, why do we have to have families and live in bondage? It's better to be unmarried, to live in an apartment and enjoy sensual games. They don't care about their nation. They are ready to sell out their nation at any time. It's not just North and South Korea, but that's our topic today. All governments are dealing with these problems. The path forward is to follow the science, follow natural law, move in the direction of sexual purity and marital fidelity. Action steps for governments, a two-pronged strategy: sexual abstinence until marriage, pure love education. Marital fidelity, true family movement. This model can be adjusted for each nation. The work in the North and South would follow different paths to meet in the middle. Basic action step. This is a photograph from, I believe it's Thailand. Robert Kittle gave it to me. These are the parliamentarians in Thailand or in Asia, South Asia, receiving the marriage blessing. Okay. The government, basic action step, the government officially adopts pure love education for its youth and promotes the interfaith peace marriage blessing for all citizens. Government implementation. What can governments? This is soft power here. Soft power. Marriage and divorce laws. Pure love public school curricula. Media support for marriage, filial piety, sexual abstinence. Think of the U.S. anti-smoking campaign. It worked. Good results. Public health policies. Tax incentives for good practices. Values education in schools. The principles of pure love and marital fidelity expressed according to the national culture and traditions. Work with all religions and the party. Every religion supports sexual purity and faithful marriage. Conscientious leaders of all parties support them. Work within the nation's system. Work with the government's existing laws and offices. Bless leaders, and they will bless the nation. Public ceremonies and holidays. National holidays honoring sexual purity and marital fidelity. We're talking about changing the culture. We are creatures of culture. The pure love pledge, the holy marriage blessing. Oh, what happened? Sorry. I want to get this in here. Yeah. From 2016 to 2019, Dr. Hak Jahan Moon conducted interfaith peace blessing festivals across Asia, Africa, and the world with active government support. Why not in North Korea? Why not in South Korea? Work with the positives in the South. Be a global model in the fight against pornography. The South Korea's response will be an example to the rest of the world of how governments should address digital sex crimes. Build man-woman equality. The government needs to combat. These are comments to the South Korean government that go in the right direction. Combat the deep gender inequality. Provide pure love education. The government should work to shift social norms by mandating comprehensive sexuality education. Science-based natural law sex education, okay? Not Kinsey, not Hugh Hefner. Multiply marriages and children through the blessing. South Korea's government is investing huge resources to incentivize having children, but it's not working. The blessing works. Work with positives in the North, women, youth, and the party. North Korean women's growing market power and social influence are underestimated. Their informal economic activities are supporting families while modernizing the economy. Women are North Korea's most promising partners to the world. This was published in May, 3 months ago, Cambridge University Press. When women change, men will change. women are frequently reminded that their primary duties to society are as wives and mothers, as if that's a bad thing. Empower women as wives and mothers, centering on pure love. That is women's natural God-given power. The perception of gender roles is gradually changing in North Korea, led by the young generation, and domestic violence has decreased. Work with young North Koreans, both men and women. And finally, the immoral Workers' Party is truly in no position to regulate relationships between men and women. That's the fact. Reform the party. Reverend and Mrs. Moon's visit to North Korea in 1991 provides a case study. Reform the party. Reverend Moon's speech to the Politburo. You're telling me the Juche ideology is an ideology centered on humans? How the hell can human beings be the center of the universe? Human beings are not the creator. Have you got that, Chairman Yoon? They're created beings. Above human beings, you have God, but you don't even know that. Hey, Chairman Yoon, do you get it? I'm asking you if you get it. Why don't you answer? He asked about their love relationships. You can't control your sex organ, so how can you say you're a leader? Father was screaming. I'm screaming too. Dr. Pak, Bohi Pak, commented, I felt my heart would stop. Reverend Moon had spoken like this for about an hour and a half. No one clapped. History tells the outcome. Kim Il-sung decided to meet Reverend and Mrs. Moon. There followed a series of cooperative developments between the anti-communist unification movement and the communist North Korean government. That was all swept aside. Politics, economics, the moral message, reform. Here's my personal notes of a report given by Dr. Pak some 3 years later. At my last dinner with top Communist Party leaders, they asked me to pray. I gave a very strong prayer. They said they felt good. I told them to pray themselves. Lately, Antonio Betancourt, he worked with Dr. Pak in North Korea. He's from South America. Antonio Betancourt in North Korea is always asked to pray before meals. He does in Spanish, and they brought a Spanish interpreter. Lesson: the party can change. And when the party changes, everything changes. Sexual abstinence, absolute fidelity. These are indigenous values. They are scientifically proven. They can unite all Koreans. Together, North and South will model the implementation of true family values. The North will provide a model of implementation in a communist state for China. The South will provide a model of implementation in a democratic state for Japan. This will bring harmony among the three nations of North Asia, centering on Korea. This is the true peace road. This, in turn, will be a model for the world. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hendricks. And let me say thank you to all of our speakers for enriching our understanding and challenging us all to become more active in the search for the peaceful reunification of the Korean Peninsula. Just one note, I was impressed that both Dr. Hendricks and our congressman from Japan both referenced the meeting between Reverend Sam Young Moon, Dr. Hak Chan Moon, and Chairman Kim Il-sung. This is the 30 years anniversary of that meeting. The congressman said that's the only time that real progress was made in North-South relations. So it's time to do that again. So thank you all very much for your participation. May heaven bless you in all ways. Thank you. This concludes our session.